Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I have a special guest with me today, Brett Tejpaul, who's the head of institutional client sales, trading, custody, and prime at Coinbase. Brett, it's great to have you today.
It's awesome to be here. Thanks, Tony.
Brett, you got a lot of experience in the financial services industry, and I want to talk a lot about that. So can you give us an overview of your background? Where are you from? Where did you go to school? And how did you end up in the industry?
Sure. The short version goes, I grew up in the New York area. I had my first sort of finance-related job when I was 15. I was a runner on the coffee, sugar, cocoa exchange on NYMEX. Soon thereafter, I went off to college. I went to Boston College. I was in the school of management, studied finance, but I also had a second major, which was studying philosophy. But every year I did something in finance, and when I came out of school, I joined JP Morgan. And at JP, I came out of the trading program as a young swap trader, and so I traded swaps and exotics as my formative experience at JP Morgan, and then continued on another 9 years there. Became part of the credit derivative desk and the structured products desk, and moved to London in 2001. In 2001, it was an awesome time to be in Europe. I was leading the structured products build out of JP's desk over there. Mm-hmm. It was sort of a raging bull market, and lots of great things were happening. Soon thereafter, in 2003, I left JP Morgan, joined Barclays. It was just after the JP Morgan Chase merger. I spent nearly the next 17 years at Barclays, and I had the pleasure of being involved in pretty much every business within markets for Barclays. So I spent pretty much all my time dedicated to the credit business, but along the way had the pleasure of and the privilege of running converts, equity derivatives, asset-backed securities, short-term financing, prime, commodities, and sort of the list goes on. Ultimately, when I moved back to the U.S., I became global head of sales and a part of the markets executive committee. So there's a small committee that was in charge of had the responsibility of running the whole markets businesses. And that was an awesome period of time. At its peak, my sales force was 2,000 people, covering sort of 8 to 10,000 clients.
Wow.
That was also probably coincided with the beginning of my pivot, into this space. And so I developed a view during that time period that, finally technology was going to disrupt the last bastion of finance that had yet to be disrupted. And so I became more vocal and more ambitious in terms of what I thought we should do. So I took on a new title called the head of digital, which was a newly created thing. But I was really trying to leverage my experience in managing all those different businesses and understanding what clients needed. And I tried to import technology from the outside world into Barclays. And so it was a great learning experience. For the first time in my life, I became a client to the outside world. I had 300 fintech companies. I helped Barclays invest in a number of them off their balance sheet, and it was the beginning of my immersion into technology.
Got it. And when did you first come across Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies? Did someone tell you about it? Did you read about it and you're like, let me take a look at this? And obviously you've now entered into the crypto industry, so to speak. So if you can tell us about that journey.
Actually, super interesting. So I started to read about it during the crypto mania, if you like. And when I was head of commodity sales and trading, one of the traders on my team asked to spend about a year doing a proposal for us to open an OTC crypto trading desk. And I was super intrigued. I learned a ton from him. He's now actually joined the crypto industry as well. But at the time, having given it a lot of consideration, I didn't support moving it forward. And the reason was I didn't think that the infrastructure was there. And I thought the industry was still plagued by issues of security, custody, and others. And I didn't feel like in a super heavy regulatory environment that we could really withstand the sort of institutional due diligence needed. Having said that, just maybe 2 years further, I've elected with my own 2 feet to spend the next many years of mine in the crypto space.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing how things have changed, even like going back to just 2017, and we're seeing more folks of your caliber who've worked in the traditional finance coming into the crypto market. So how did you end up at Coinbase? Was it like you saw the job? Did they poach you? Anything along those lines? You're like, you know what? I can bring my skill sets and go work at Coinbase and help build out what they're trying to achieve.
So I wanted to take a break. It'd been 17 years since my last break, only having worked at two firms over 25 years and having had this really impactful experience running digital. So I was thinking through actually quite a large spectrum of opportunities, but there were three things that I wanted to make sure I was focused on. The first was doing something in capital markets. The second was doing something with institutional clients.
Mm.
And the third was it had to have technology at the core. And so, since I wasn't a technologist, but had expertise in the other two for sure, I was evaluating a pretty wide range of options. And I had some encouragement along the way from people who knew me well to say, you really ought to look again, closer again. A lot's changed in crypto in the past couple of years. In fact, you should definitely meet Coinbase. And so, to be honest, I was a little reticent at first because I sort of done the deep dive on trading Bitcoin principally, and I had associated crypto with trading Bitcoin. And it wasn't until I would say 20, 30 conversations, a trip out to San Fran and meeting the team and then understanding what Brian Armstrong's vision really was that I got super pumped and super enthusiastic about the broader vision. So once I realized it wasn't just about opportunistically trading Bitcoin, but instead it was actually building a new open financial system on the rails of crypto, it sort of opened my eyes to a world of opportunities. And all of a sudden, I thought I had a pretty ambitious vision when I was in my digital job, but actually now understanding what real vision and real ambition and a mission-driven company to bring an open financial system to the world was sort of like the light bulb on moment for me, and I wanted to join right away.
Got it. And along those lines of the institutions coming into the crypto market, and I think people's perception of the crypto market has been changing and evolving. We're seeing folks like different banks like JP Morgan, obviously which you worked at, are now offering banking services to Coinbase, Gemini, and we see companies like MicroStrategy recently putting some of their cash reserve into Bitcoin to preserve the value, and even Goldman Sachs said hey, we're expanding our crypto team, hiring a new head of digital assets. What are your thoughts on all those things happening? It's almost like capitulation when at one point some of these folks were opponents of crypto, but now, to your point, I think the evolution is happening in people's understanding of what's taking place. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Gosh, that's a lot of ground to cover. But you're right. I feel like I've joined during the best possible period. We've had huge institutional client uptake, and you're right to say we've had these sort of major milestones that have happened. I would add Paul Tudor Jones to that list and that letter he wrote as being a seminal moment, I think, for unlocking the traditional world and in some way taking career risk off the table for people in traditional finance who want to be assertive and want to propose getting involved in crypto. So that was a major one. Another one was Renaissance Technologies. Maybe a lot of people didn't take notice, but certainly I did. In indicating their ability to trade CME futures. And you're right, MicroStrategy is the first publicly listed NASDAQ company to buy an enormous volume, hundreds of millions of Bitcoin is an awesome move and something I hope to see replicated. So what's happening? I think what's happened is my frame of reference is really going back to June of 18 and taking a look at that proposal that was put forward and trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work, what was likely to work in the future. And I'd say there are a number of big changes. The first of which is custody. Mm-hmm. So Coinbase's own custody has gone from a nascent business. I think that's a testament to the quality of the product that's been built and our ability to demonstrate that we're a regulated custodian, qualified custodian, regulated by the New York DFS. And so I think that gives institutional investors a lot of comfort, right? So the first is, how do I enter the market? And once I enter, and if I buy, what am I going to do with my crypto? So having a, a, a super safe place to store it, I think, is a key component. A second component I would talk about is we've actually announced and completed an acquisition of a phenomenal platform called Tagomi,
Mm-hmm.
which was founded by some incredibly smart people and adept and talented people that both knew the crypto universe as well as traditional finance. And what they did is they built a platform that's specifically for designed for sophisticated institutional clients to be able to buy through the use of something called a smart order router and algorithms. And so the basic, we talk a lot about it. Maybe it's worth a quick description.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine any one of those large participants that we talked about wanting to own a quantum of in this case probably Bitcoin or ETH, but in amounts that are pretty large, up to hundreds of millions. And so crypto so far has been mostly a retail driven marketplace where the average size of trades done is pretty small. So if you're to put in a market order for 10 bucks or 30 bucks or 50 bucks, you're very likely to move the market against you. So
Sure.
what Tejpaul built is they built these really cool algorithms where they take order sizes and they chop them and randomize them in different ways so that it sort of in some way disguises the presence of a large client in the marketplace. And so you buy in bits and pieces, and there's different ways you can speed it up and slow it down. We use acronyms like TWAP, time weighted average price, and opportunistic algos. But there's a whole menu of really, really cool stuff you can use to actually enter, in a stealthily basis and access the liquidity in the marketplace. The other sort of big point to mention is why would you use such a thing? I mean, Coinbase is itself a leading exchange, has the deepest book of liquidity.
Yeah.
But the answer is that institutional clients want to be able to get the best price,
Yeah.
right? And so if Bitcoin's trading on 8, 9, 10 different exchanges, arguably more than that, we actually route to all those different exchanges, through those smart order routers. So if the best possible price for Bitcoin in that split second moment happens to exist on someone else's exchange, we're indifferent. We just buy that small piece and give our key investor the fill. So it's a way that institutional investors can buy and sell, accessing the entirety of the marketplace without preference, any preference given to Coinbase's own venue. So that's really important. The third thing worth flagging is that Coinbase, is an exchange. It has a broker dealer. It has a custodian. One thing we don't do is actually make prices. So we're not a principal market maker. And my background really comes from principal trading.
Right.
Investment banks bought and sold, principally fixed income bonds and or other securities. We made markets. And so in this particular case, we're actually not making markets. We're just we're routing institutional clients' business into the marketplace as an agency only. So we get paid a de minimis fee for giving them what I'll call the crypto best execution. And not having that conflict of interest, I think, is really important.
Got it. Now, I know you can't name names, but maybe you can tell us what type of institutional investors you're seeing demand from. Is it like family offices, pensions, hedge funds? Can you shed some light there as much as you can?
Happy to. So I would say over the course, again, my frame of reference is only this past 90 something days, but even in that short period of time, we've had what I'll call household names in traditional macro land come in and sign up and begin actively trading. And so it's pretty phenomenal to see how impactful they can be, as a client, but also in terms of adding liquidity to the crypto world. So, my thesis is the more institutional clients that are present in crypto, the better it is for all of crypto. The better it is for every person who wants to trade their own PA account at any sort of hour of the day, 24/7. It's awesome to have more and more institutional participation. So the big macro hedge funds that have come in and they've traded quite a lot. And so one stat which comes to mind is in the past 4 weeks, my OTC, which stands for over the counter trading desk, and that's the place through which people initiate these algorithmic orders and also phone orders.
Mm-hmm.
That one trading desk has done, and that desk has been around for 2 years.
Right.
Okay? So in the past 4 weeks, that trading desk has done 50% of the life to date volume.
Wow.
So that's a real testament to what Tagomi's built because we've seen this huge uptick. But it's also a real testament to the fact that the tools work and the institutions trust them. And they're coming back again and again and again. And as they get comfortable with the tools, they're trading, more and more actively.
Got it. And recently, the block reported that Coinbase has 35 million customers, including both institutional and retail. Can you confirm those numbers? Are they larger? I don't know if you can tell us, as far as the percentage or the division between the two. Any insight there?
So it is indeed 35 million customers. That's for sure. A few more stats in and around. So institutional customers we measure in the thousands.
Hmm.
Although not all clients are created equal in terms of how actively they trade. So I'd say that like any other business I've ever managed before, it's an 80-20 rule.
Got it.
Where I'll say the top 100-ish clients probably dominate the flows. And just coming back to the completion of your answer, though, the macro hedge funds are just one client segment. I think what's interesting in terms of the profile, who's piling in, I would say family offices. And so it's the family offices of not just otherwise interested people, but actually there was a gentleman that joined who's a high profile person, obviously well off, 92 years old, actually.
Wow.
And we're having a phone conversation about thinking about why to buy and when to buy and how much to buy. It was pretty neat. Family offices of hedge fund magnates. That's definitely been a theme. Hedge fund offices of people. Sorry, family offices of people who otherwise have family wealth in industry. So other industries, they're coming in pretty big size. So family offices as an active sector is certainly booming. Another one is university endowments. So there have been some pretty progressive, principally U.S.-based university endowments, and they've come in considerable size over the course of the past couple of weeks, and that's been fun to watch and
Sure.
fun to be a part of for sure. But I can keep going on and on. In fact, it's not limited to one client segment. You've got the crypto first players have been increasingly active as well. So the venture capital firms that have big strategic allocations to crypto, even they have been actually using these new tools that we have to regularly buy set amount of crypto each week or month. And so it's been fun to watch them on board and have that experience.
Very cool, and I'm very excited to hear that. So as far as the service that Coinbase offers, with Cussie, certainly, and you alluded to it, security is so important. So do you guys offer insurance policies? Like, what's your hardware storage, cold storage setup look like? As much as you can share there. Because a lot of the retail investors are curious about it, even though obviously we're not engaged or touching that level of what you're doing for institutional investors. But maybe you can take us behind the curtain of how that process works. Let's say I'm a wealthy individual and I come on board and I want to buy a few million of Bitcoin or whatever it may be. How is that stored? How can I access it? And is there, like I said, insurance and all those things set up?
Yeah, so it has if you like, the warm blanket of security that those type of institutional investors are used to seeing in their other sort of investment activities. And so I think I mentioned it before, but probably the first place to start is just to say that we're a regulated qualified custodian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an important badge of honor, to wear to give clients comfort. Along with that, we also have SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports. So what that means is you can think of it as an audit on controls.
Yep.
That someone can sort of see and identify with the fact that you do as you say. So that's the second step. I think my colleagues at Coinbase would have maybe reordered that and said Coinbase is first a security company and second maybe a crypto company. So
Interesting.
yeah, so security has been at the center of Coinbase, from the start. And so the protocols that security drives is super cool. I can't completely geek out on it with you. I'm not the best person to describe the sharding of keys and the cold storage and how it works, but it's a sort of almost breathtaking experience to go through it and understand the lengths to which Coinbase goes to protect client assets. Another important part you mentioned is the insurance policy. So Coinbase was a pioneer in the sector, the first crypto company to have that insurance policy. They got it through Lloyd's. Aon's the broker, and we have a $255 million crypto policy, and it's provided by a syndicate of U.S. and U.K. insurance companies. And so everything from you should think about Coinbase as someone who both institutional and retail are drawn to because there's safety. There's safety, there's trust, you're inside the walled garden. And I suppose the thing that I would reflect on is having been through the custody demos and gone through really, really deep on all these different steps. What I would say is the thing that struck me is Coinbase has this unbelievable knack of making really, really sophisticated and complex things easy. And so I would say that's, from the most sophisticated hedge fund active trader to, someone who's 90 years old and less active, the sales process goes smoothly, right? And you win people's trust and you demonstrate. Another thing I like that they've added is test trades. So, even for myself and beginning to, send payments, if I fat finger it, I lose it forever. And so one of the things that I like are things like white labeling. So you can only send to, the one address that you, or multiple addresses that you specify, but also you can test trades, right? So you can see that it actually went from A to B. It was there. You feel good. You have a touch and feel experience, and then you're more confident in pressing the button.
Got it. Got it. I wanted to talk to you about something the community had a question about. And I think it's, we are very early. Everyone is still in the process of building out their services. And Coinbase seemed to have some technical issues where there was downtime at certain points. And, some of the community were wondering, are you guys ready for the next bull run and, the traffic that may be coming in? Because it's certainly looking like it's going to be bigger than what happened in 2017. And can you talk to us about, what was the issue there and what's the solutions and what's the plan moving forward?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The perspective that you have is based on your own experience, right? And so I come from a world where even in today, it's almost as if like the shop opens and they put like an open sign,
Yeah.
and stock markets open and then they close it. And then if you're running, risk in a portfolio and your principal market closes, you're sort of doing slightly unnatural things throughout the rest of the 24-hour period where you're trying to find a proxy to either buy or sell something that you think will mostly replicate the price action of what you've got in your portfolio, right? And so I spent a career doing that sort of thing where I said I'm along these exposures, I need to delta hedge or rebalance or trade, and I've been forced to trade instruments that aren't even the same ones in many cases. In some cases, it's FX and FX trades 24/7. And so the perspective that I bring coming into it is, holy cow, this thing tries to, this industry trades 24/7. You got to be kidding me. And so to have the first sort of, minor interruption where we're at, 99.5, whatever, versus 9.8 or whatever the stats are, for me was a moment where I had to step back and sort of take a deep breath. I think the thing to draw out is in those short moments of interruption. My understanding broadly is that the API trading for institutional clients remains unaffected. And so I think many times it's the web interface,
Yeah.
Which are important, consumer clients, realize and notice. But I think it's pretty awesome that we're at like 99.8%. And yes, sometimes it does come with, bouts of volatility, but it's not something I think that, for the world that I'm pursuing, that is no, has a day that there's only active trading, even sometimes at the open and the close. To come into a market that trades so actively, even on the
Yeah.
weekends, 24/7 is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah, you brought up a great point. Like it's 24/7. It's almost like you don't have any type of downtime to do upgrades and so forth. To your point, there's not a 9 to 6 or whatever it may be, right? Closing bell, opening bell, right? So that's a great point. So it sounds like you guys though are putting in the. And I don't think we've folks haven't noticed any issues on the retail front. Well, I should say haven't noticed any issues lately on the retail front. So it sounds like some things have been resolved. I know Brian Armstrong has spoken about a few items, and you guys are in a good place moving forward.
Yeah, listen, the prism through which I evaluate this world is principally through the institutional
Mm-hmm.
perspective, and again, going from having a handful of hours of active trading a day to having tens, a large part of the 24-hour period active, I think is pretty okay. And so I think there's probably a little bit more understanding for some temporary outages, which I think largely again don't actually affect the institutional clients that trade via APIs, fixed connections, and otherwise. So I don't see it as a. I understand it's an important issue. I understand that we're trying to be 100%, which is an amazing,
Yeah.
an amazing being perfect would be, it is a great goal to have. But I don't see it as being absolutely necessary to continue to invite the wave of institutional clients, into this space.
Sure. So many other community questions. Folks are, of course, chomping at the bit to hear about when, on the retail side, you're going to be listing like certain coins such as Vechain and Cardano. I know you may not be able to say here's a hard date, but maybe possibly coming into 2020. Anything you can give us there.
I'm not the right person to sort of show some body language in and around it, but I can say that if an asset's been discussed in like an exploration blog, then you can be sure we're taking a close look at it. Exactly how and when it gets lifted and whether or not they meet the right security standards and protocols, et cetera, of the listing community is going to be a subject of I fear, speculation.
Got it. That makes sense. There was another question from the community coming in asking about, is there plans to add something like a will setup? Like, let's say someone has an account on Coinbase on the retail side. Maybe they have $100,000 of crypto in there. What if they passed away? How would their family members be able to access that? If they put it in the will that all my crypto goes to whoever, right? Is there any plans for something like that?
The high level on that is, and I'm not an expert on like probates and wills and inheritance and all that. I would assume that it's no different in some respects to other assets that are part of anyone else's will. So I think if someone unfortunately does pass, then you probably have to show a death certificate, and then that crypto asset should be reflected in the estate of whomever's concerned and go through the same process. So I would, I'd hope for crypto that a will is an all-encompassing thing, and I'm sure whomever accumulated wealth in crypto would want that wealth to be directed to the individuals and/or charities that they had chosen.
Got it. Now, this other question, I know it'd be due to NDAs and legal items and so forth, you may not be able to disclose, but maybe you can give us a hint. And I know you're specifically focused on the institutional side. Any other big major things we can anticipate from Coinbase in the rest of 2020? Any hints you can drop?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm most excited about.
Sure.
So we've completed the acquisition of Tagomi. We've announced our intention to build a full services prime broker. And so the big one, it may not be the one that you're focused on, but it's certainly the one I'm focused on, is actually building out the full service capabilities of a prime broker. And so what that means to me, it's going to be a crypto specific version of that. But what that means is we're going to have a brokerage, so along with the ability to execute. The execution for a prime broker has got to be in multiple venues in the same way I described before. So you're not captive to Coinbase, but you can access the whole marketplace. You're going to have a custody, so the safe storage of your crypto. during that process, you want the ability to do interesting things like stake,
Mm.
maybe lend. And then the third part is going to be financing. And so they're definitely going to be, we already offer the ability for institutional clients to trade on margin.
Mm.
But we're also going to have the ability to perhaps pay custody clients and others some interest, to perhaps lend Bitcoin and or other crypto assets out to those that may want to borrow it. And so my aim is to have a cohesive experience across all those different parts. And so what a prime broker in crypto is will be something better than it is in traditional, finance 1.0. But it'll be this holistic experience where you can activate on a number of different angles seamlessly. And you can have, all of the things that you would hope to have, which are, great compliance and rules and information barriers and post trade reports and TCA analysis. When I say TCA, I mean transaction cost analysis.
Mm.
So that you can evaluate, if I were to send it down this chute, what do I pay in exchange fees and or other fees? If I went down this method, what's the cost benefit, to doing it, and how quickly can I get filled? And so this,
Sure.
I was talking to one of my hedge fund buddies, and I was really pumped up about this, and he said, "Well, so basically, you've created everything we have in finance, and you've made it better in crypto." Yeah, that's a pretty good way to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. So given your experience in the financial industry, services industry, and now being at Coinbase, I want to get your perspective because you have the traditional finance experience and obviously now in crypto. Where do you see the crypto market in maybe 5 years? Not price predictions, but maybe the growth, because now you're on the forefront of the institutional players coming in. They're coming to you, and you're servicing them. Where do you see the market in 5 years?
So it kind of comes back to that sort of light bulb on moment, right? When I realized it wasn't just about trading Bitcoin; it was about all else, right? And so when I think about Coinbase, when I think about the mission to build an open financial system for the world for everyone to participate, the company's deadly serious about that,
Mm.
right? Right? And they want to be. We are trusted, and so if I were to close my eyes and imagine where we are, I would hope that we have a huge uptake across the globe in all sorts of economies. We're already in 100 countries.
Mm.
I hope that we're more deeply penetrated everywhere across the entire swath between retail to institutional. And so I think it's important to have that widespread adoption. Underpinning that view, I would say at present, I know there'll be, great innovations to come, and DeFi is doing amazing things. But I think at least my forward view is at least inspired by the uptake on stablecoins.
Mm.
So like Bitcoin as a currency for paying for stuff doesn't work that well. It's not really, there's a lot of attributes that don't make it scalable beyond what it's being used for today.
Sure.
But stablecoins, USDC, at the top of my list, is something that can be used for payments, for cross-border. And so when I think about what would be required for really broad and deep institutional participation, I think you're probably going to have more and more regulatory clarity. And I think like this OCC announcement that came out, allowing U.S.-based banks to custody crypto, I think is really progressive and important. But I would have thought that the global regulatory framework is going to sort of get. I'm talking my book a little bit, but I think there's going to be many giant steps forward towards adoption. And I think it'll be driven not because people want to trade Bitcoin, but because large financial institutions, charities, all sorts of different important players want the ability in a compliant way, in a KYC, AML compliant way, to benefit from the utility function of stablecoins.
Got it.
And that's where I think it's headed.
Yeah, and to your point, there's a lot of unbanked folks around the globe, and those who don't have access to proper financial services, and to your point, the stable coins and in a more digital economy can really help a lot of those folks and open up so many opportunities for them. And you mentioned stablecoins, and we see CBDCs are being built by central banks around the globe. What are your thoughts on that? Is it similar to like maybe the stablecoins that this is just going to be the whole digital economy and things are going to move faster?
It feels like it, doesn't it? I mean, I think we're supposed to keep a really close eye on China. It feels like they're really focused in and around it. I think they're deadly serious about the launch of their CBDC. I think there's a lot to learn there. I think the U.S. should definitely follow that story. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be a big part of it. Another part, by the way, of that vision on the 5 year forward is, and I just wanted to complete that view on Coinbase. There's part of me that sometimes think about the Amazon of crypto, and I think about having actually being sort of all things crypto to institutions and retail, which means being able to participate in a wide range of different cryptocurrencies, tokens. We didn't talk about that yet, but I really feel like Coinbase should be the center for all things crypto. I also think, as you see this sort of build out on the retail side, it also feels like Coinbase has the potential to be the primary banking account, right? When you think through the needs of consumer, certainly taking loans and repaying loans and using stable coins and just benefiting from what crypto can bring, I think is another enormous potential.
Got it. I'm going to preface this question by saying not financial or investment advice, but what do you personally hold in your crypto portfolio?
So in some ways, I'm a proxy for the clients I serve.
Okay.
And so the reason I preface it that way is because I definitely own Bitcoin and ETH. And my commitment to myself as a lifelong trader is to really, when I participate in something, it's a learning experience, but I'm also sort of committed to really understand what it is, how it derives value. And so my commitment to myself is to deep dive each and every one of my investments as I build out that portfolio. So I've got a lot of work to do. I thought I'd be further along in my investment journey by now. But I got to tell you, like working at Coinbase is a 24/7 thing. So I'll have more time to participate. I'm looking forward to interacting with the DeFi networks and seeing what I can do there. I think it's super exciting.
Sure. So Brett, I think we covered on most items, and I want to wrap it up here with some rapid fire questions. Like, what's your favorite food?
Right now, it would be my daughter's hamburger.
And favorite movie?
Royal Tenenbaums.
Nice.
I'll date myself, but it's a good one.
What about a musician or artist or band?
I would say Bob Marley for music. For artist, Ian Davenport. He's a contemporary painter out of London. He does some really cool stuff.
Nice. And when you're not working at Coinbase 24/7, when you get your breaks, what are you doing as far as a pastime or hobby?
Can't do it right now, but I love alpine ski touring. So that's been a passion over the past couple of years. And when I'm not doing that in the summer here, I'm playing tennis or finding some other way to probably be on the bike.
Awesome. Brett, a lot of insightful information, learned a lot, and very excited to see the new things that are coming on Coinbase's front. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a ton, Tony. Really appreciate it.